While the MCU is busy breaking the box office with Shang-Chi and the Ten Rings, Sony is working in the shadows of the superhero film giant to create its own darker cinematic universe. And with What If breaking barriers within the multiverse, anything can happen at this point. Now let's focus on today's video's infamous character, or should I say creature, Carnage. While Cletus Cassidy is featured as the villain to the Venom sequel, there's been way more than one Carnage throughout the long history of Marvel Comics. These symbiotes really get around. So let's take a look at some of the most powerful Carnage hosts, and hopefully we'll get to meet some of them in live-action mode in the near future. The first but weakest Carnage host to make today's list is no other than Daily Bugle's J. Jonah Jameson's son, John. It's a lot of J's. Most probably in order to make his difficult and rather moody father proud, John Jameson has worn more than one hat throughout his time in the Marvel Comics universe. The boy genius went from Air Force officer to astronaut, until that fateful moment when he met the original psychotic host of the Red Symbiote, Cletus Cassidy. As the head of security at Ravencroft Institute for the Criminally Insane, John might have been a little too close to Cletus, and to Carnage by association. The alien creature took advantage of this to up on and in John to cause a little havoc in town. While we know that Carnage will always keep a little of Cletus's violent side inside of him, his trip inside John's mind confirmed that the creature could indeed jump from one host to another. While this was his first jump away from Cletus, it wasn't his last. The infamous Dr. Carl Malice represented all that's wrong with capitalism. The genius geneticist found a way to grant superpowers to anyone who could pay a good fee, that is. This gave him a little extra on top of all that good doctor money, but also created more and more empowered criminals along the way. Malice was basically the equivalent of a villain factory, pumping out the next best evil powers in town. But when the Wizard decided to ask him to join the Frightful Four, he inherited the Carnage symbiote, as it was too much to handle when it was trapped inside a brain-dead Cletus. While Malice mixed with Carnage inherited the name The Superior Carnage, it didn't take long before the alien entity turned on everyone, and eventually turned the Doctor into a late-night snack before searching for a brand new host. Yum. Dr. Tanis Neves was the unfortunate psychiatrist who was originally assigned to the villain Shriek's case. Having lost an arm, Neves was given the chance to try out a brand new type of prosthetic arm produced from the Carnage symbiote. What could possibly go wrong, right? Well, you got it right, basically everything. Carnage's offspring called Scorn was actually slowly growing on her prosthetic arm. Totally freaked out, she cut off her arm, the fake one of course, and Shriek, but it didn't last long since her supersonic power was basically the one rare thing that could work against symbiotes. So the little baby Carnage went back to Dr. Neves, who helped fight Carnage. Scorn soon became a part of an elite force of symbiote users called the Mercury Team. While Scorn ended up reviving Cletus at some point in time and losing her life in the ordeal, she made a pretty cool and powerful purple symbiote who fought in the name of good. Now, that whole mess there never would have happened if it wasn't for Bentley Whitman, who's also known by his villain nickname The Wizard. The elitist and super intelligent Whitman decided that the only way to prove to the world that he was a total genius was to defeat one of Marvel's brightest superheroes, Reed Richards, along with his team, the Fantastic Four. The whole fiasco with Dr. Malice being eaten alive by Carnage was 100% Whitman's fault, since he is the one who forced the symbiote to bond with him, resulting in the superior Carnage, although briefly. It didn't take long for the symbiote to move on and possess Whitman, and leave him again when Spider-Man and the gang brought Cletus's body near the alien, to which he jumped right in without skipping a heartbeat. There's no place like home. While Whitman only got a brief moment of symbiote OP-ness, it seems that the whole ordeal somehow healed his brain tumor. If you thought the insane Cletus was scary when bonded with the Carnage symbiote, wait until you meet the creature known as the Crimson Leviathan. Leviathan, not to be confused with the group of villains of the same name, is basically what happens when a vile symbiote merges with a great white shark. Oh yeah. Now, how did that happen? Well, it's true that we usually see symbiotes bond with human hosts, and it makes total sense. But look at how scary this fellow is. It's Jaws meets your worst nightmare. The story behind this giant fish, armed with a mouthful of sharp teeth, is an interesting one. The brief Carnage Shark combo happened after the symbiote was left stranded on an island, and was eager to find another host, reach the mainland, and well, do crimes and kill people. He eventually reached his destination, but the mere fact that it could bond with such a powerful and scary creature opens countless possibilities. Imagine for a second if Carnage could get his hand on one of those dinos from the Savage Land. Ben Reilly has quite a history when it comes to imposter syndrome. He was first introduced in 1973 as a clone of Peter Parker's clone, before becoming the pretty cool-looking Scarlet Spider. As he was going through quite the identity crisis, he eventually took Peter's mantle as Spider-Man, and somewhat like Peter, has years before with the Venom symbiote. He too bonded with one, but this time it was with the evil red one that lives for one thing only: destruction. Now, Eddie Brock might be pretty strong when bonded with Venom, but when Ben Reilly, empowered by a radioactive spider, mixes with Carnage, this makes for a whole new level of strength. Eddie Brock, who stars as the freshly branded Sony Spider-Man Universe, or SSMU lead characters, has a very long history with Marvel's symbiotes. Of course, his name echoes one of the most popular anti-heroes of all time, the Black Symbiote Venom. But did you know that in the Marvel Comics Absolute Carnage, he bonded with both Venom and Carnage? This resulted in an OP gigantic humanoid creature with both Carnage and Venom's powers in one single entity. Of course, Carnage doesn't play well with others, and is mostly interested in taking all the power away from his host. But since Brock had quite the practice with his own symbiote, he was able to reject Carnage from himself and leave him on a desert island where the maniacal alien made his way into the sea and took over a great white shark before terrorizing everyone in his path. That's the freakiest Finding Nemo I've ever seen. The Norrin Rad, most commonly known as the Silver Surfer of the alternative universe Earth 985, was once bonded with the Carnage symbiote. Armed with Silver Surfer's power cosmic, his amazing cosmic surfboard, and everything that comes with the Carnage symbiote, Carnage Cosmic was quite the unbeatable enemy. He not only beat Spider-Man, Justice, Firestar, and the Avengers once, but twice, and during that same arc. Only one thing could defeat him, and the Silver Surfer had to muster all of his strength to briefly take back his will and put an end to Carnage, or almost. The cosmic being flew right into the sun, bringing Carnage with him at the same time. Interestingly enough, both of them survived the ordeal, but at least it got them separated. The power-hungry Green Goblin, aka Norman Osborn, who's set to come back from the afterlife in the upcoming Spider-Man No Way Home, yay, has once lost the power that he sourced from the Goblin Serum. Not happy with just being an ordinary citizen, Osborn set out to reclaim the superpowers and traded the greedy Green for a tone of red rage. That's right, the Green Goblin stole the Carnage symbiote and bonded with him to create the Double Trouble Red Goblin. In a rare and surprising turn of events, Carnage did not try to completely take over Osborn's mind, as he found quite appealing the way the villain operated, so they teamed up as one lethal and evil supervillain against our friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. Today's number one spot, of course, goes to the Carnage symbiote's first host, the psychotic Cletus Kasady. Together they share an unbreakable bond, as the symbiote seemed to have adopted Kasady's personality when it first merged with him. Together they are a powerhouse combined with a relentless appetite for carnage. And we'll finally see the character in live-action mode in the soon-to-be-released film Venom: Let There Be Carnage, with Woody Harrelson playing the infamous criminal, and his good track record at playing insane characters as seen in Natural Born Killers. This casting is a match made in hell. Another Carnage host that did not make the list but will be quite interesting to see in a movie is the Osborn's grandson Normie, who becomes the Goblin Child, along with the Red Goblin. As a hybrid between the Goblin formula and a symbiote, the kid is quite the nightmare.